Hey everyone, Kenan Proffitt here with a quick GeoNodes tip for you today. This is going to be how to scale the radius of your curve object, but in GeoNodes. So the standard way, if you know, let me just add a Bezier curve, and I'll Shift A, add a circle curve. And we can grab that curve, and then over here in the curve settings, we can do a bevel object, and we can just grab the circle. And now you could scale a circle down, or you could tab into edit mode on your actual curve and press on Mac, it's Option S, I believe it's Alt S on Windows. And you can scale the radius nice and simple, and you can make adjustments. So you can extrude the curve like so and scale the radius so that you have different points like so. Make fun art. It's useful for like tree branches, organic things like that. I wanted to know, how do we set that up in geometry node so that we can replicate that same idea of using the viewport shortcuts like this to scale the radius of a curve. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually very simple. I'm going to press Shift A again, add another curve again. I'll go into geometry nodes, create a new node network, and we want to give this curve some thickness. And the way you do that is by doing a set curve radius node after your group input. And then we need a curve to mesh node right after that. And then we need a profile shape. So let's do a circle curve circle, and feed that into the profile. Okay, now we can increase the radius here, and there you go. We've recreated what we had before by just using the viewport tools, right? Wrong. We can scale and we can rotate, but I can't use that Option S shortcut to scale the radius of my tube. And this is frustrating because, you know, I want to build things like trees and be able to scale the trunk in the viewport, but still keep all my other nodes. So how do we set that up? Very simple. Let's take a sample curve node right here and feed our curve input into the sample curve node. And this node is great. We can get lots of data from this node, but we're going to focus on really just getting the radius value from our curve that's in our viewport. So let's set this to length, and we're going to set all curves. And if we just take the value into the radius, it's not going to do anything. Everything's going to disappear. We actually need the radius of this Bezier curve. We need that information applied into our node network. And the way we do that is just by adding in a radius node. And we can, you see this value, this is just kind of an empty arbitrary socket. We can just connect the radius node into there. And now if we feed the output into the radius, you see that gives us a radius all right. And we can even scale using the shortcut in the viewport, but we can only scale all of the points. We're only getting the radius for the entire curve, and we need more specific control over that. Well, and that's where this length segment comes in. And we can get the length value of our curve by dropping in a spline parameter node, which curves our splines. And we have this length value right here. And just feed that into the length of the sample curve node. And now we have the radius of our spline and the length of our spline. And look at that. We can use the shortcut keys in the viewport and extrude as we would, scale as we would, and go about our business. And now we can continue our GeoNodes setup while having that flexibility of the viewport shortcuts to do things like scale and rotate and stuff like that. So there might be other ways. I'm sure there's tons of other ways of doing this exact thing. And you guys can let me know in the comments, but that was just the way I found. It's really simple, really easy to set up. And now I can go back into my geometry nodes tree setup and apply this method in order to scale the radius of my trunk and do different things like that. So that's it, just a quick tip for you today. Hopefully you found that useful. If you did, smash the like button and subscribe if you're not already. And check out my Patreon. Shout out to all you Patreon members. Really appreciate you guys. And I will see you all in the next Blender tutorial.